me how fast I'm going. That's my speedometer.
There you are. Now
What I'm spinning today is Baba Black Sheep. Have you any wool? I have black sheep. About a third of our herd is black or gray. I used to have black and white sheep called Jacob sheep. Right now I'm raising Icelandic and Shetland. And a full Shetland or Icelandic can give me some horns. And my husband thinks of them as handlebars because he can catch the sheep. Now when I spin, the wheel goes to the right. And you can make a Z twist or an S twist. And I keep going here, and you notice how I stretch the fleece out with my left hand here. When I get it the right thickness, then I let the twist come up and grab it. Now what's gonna happen when I run out? When I start spinning on the bobbin, it's one continuous thread. And if it breaks, then I just overlap the threads. And when I get to an end like this, where I'm ending up and I have like this, I don't spin right to the end, I leave a little bit like that. Then I'll take the next part, and this is called a roving. And I have it processed like that, and I draw the beginning out just like this, overlap with the other, get the wheel going the same direction, and these fibers will twist around, so you hardly even know where I start and where I stop. See, and how I can go with the next group. Now, I'm spinning what we call a single ply, and it kind of looks like a thread, but it is a single ply yarn. Now, if I stop here, this is kind of, I can pull it apart. There's no strength there, but the strength comes from twisting it. That's what turns it from a roving fleece to a thread to a yarn. And look, when I do this, you see all that extra tension? It kind of twists back on itself and says, oh, I don't like that. I don't want my yarn all twisted. But what happens when I turn the other way and I apply to the two threads together, the two threads will twine around themselves and make a nice two-ply yarn. And then the twist is rather neutralized. And you know, when I want to make a pair of socks, I want 3 or 4 of these together because it needs to be strong, because those heels will wear out. And a lot of times when I use wool, I'll use like silk or Angora bunny, Angora goat, llama, or different things, and I'll apply them together because it makes them a different feel. But the only thing that has this tension is fleece from a sheep. If I do an Angora goat, you won't see that tension because it's a hair. Now, if I take your hair and I try to spin it, your hair is fairly straight. Does anybody have spring in their hair like that? I don't think so, not quite like that, okay? Now, you learned a lot about the sheep, 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep. And the #1 thing in the United States is raised for meat. And then the second thing it's raised for is fleece. And I have black fleece, about a third of my herd is black or brown, and I also have white. And I could scrub and wash all my fleece, but I send it off to have it cleaned so I can spin, because I love to spin. I #1 was a spinner, then I learned to weave. And that's pretty fun. Now this weaving was done, and I dyed it with Kool-Aid, because I don't have any sheep that are green, orange, or pink, or blue. This is orange Kool-Aid, let's see, lemon lime, cherry, and blueberry. Now you use the Kool-Aid that doesn't have sugar. I would take 5 packages and I'd put it in the microwave with a quart of water and 1 fleece already spun. And after 15 minutes, I pour the water off and it'd be clear. And all the Kool-Aid went into the fibers. So it's heat set, and that worked really good. When I'm working with kids like you, I love to use Kool-Aid. But I can use natural things like marigolds, onion skins, walnuts, blueberries, beets, all kinds of things to make color on the wool. Or I can use commercial dyes. When I use them, then I wear gloves and masks because they have harmful fumes. But once the yarn is washed afterwards, the fumes, they're all gone, so it's healthy and it's safe. Then after fleece, the next thing that sheep are raised for is hides. Now if you look at that table right behind you, you see a dark fleece with kind of prints. They are block print, and they are carved blocks from birch wood, and they take and they boil the alder tree, and they make an ink, and they make a design on there, and that's called a skin feller. Now in Norway, the people didn't have any heat in their house, My phone's going up, but we'll ignore it. It's okay. Anyway, in Norway, they would all get in one big bed, pull a fleece, 3 or 4 of those sewed together, and it would keep them warm till morning. So we have meat, we have fleece, we have hides. The 4th thing sheep is raised with is milk. Have you ever had sheep cheese called Roquefort? It's a blue cheese, and it's made in the caves of Roquefort, France, and it's usually 100% sheep milk. In Europe, they milk more sheep than they do cows. Now, sheep only have 2 teats, and when they have 2 lambs, that's perfect because sheep A and sheep B will always drink from the same teat, but if they have 3 or 4, they have to have bottle lambs because they can't feed. 2 of them can't eat off one and 1 off the other, otherwise they won't get enough. So there's many different ways you can make fudge, you can make cheese, all kinds of stuff. Sheep milk is naturally homogenized, and you can freeze it for 30 days, take it in, process it, and make cheese. My husband and I milked sheep for about 5 years, and our kids were out there, and we would milk for about 5 months, because sheep take like so many months to carry the lamb. They have the lamb, leave the lamb with for a couple of weeks, and then we milk for 5 months. But not too many people in the United States do that, so it's kind of unusual. You can also use the bones of the sheep. I use them to make needles for what is called nail binding. You can use the hoofs to make glue, and I even took the ba and put it on my smartphone, so when instead of ringing, it goes ba. Anyway, you can use every part of the sheep, which is kind of cool, so very cool. And as you saw in Richard's pictures, you know, you saw the nice little white ones. Sometimes they come brown, gray. I even had some that were black and white, 2-colored, not like a zebra, but they had like black spots. And that was called a Jacob sheep. And a Jacob sheep was known for having 4 horns, kind of unusual, 2 straight horns and 2 curved horns. So anyway, I've raised a lot of different colors of sheep. They're kind of strange. And I'm what you call a fiber farmer because I raise them mainly for the fibers. I not only raise sheep, but llamas, Angora goats, Angora bunnies, even dog hair. You know, my husband at night, he gets really nervous because he has dreams that I'm coming after him with a clipper, but I've never attacked his hair yet. So when you guys get up in the morning, do you comb your hair in the morning because it looks like flyaway? And when we comb the hair from the sheep, that's called carding. We card it, get it nice and straight, and get it ready to spin. And you can spin straight from off the sheep, just like when Melvin sheared it. And in next to the sheep's hide is an oil called lanolin. And it was nice and white next to the hide. And out toward the ends, it gets dry, it gets sunburned, it gets dirty. But next to the sheep is this oil. And sometimes when the oil is really thick, it actually is kind of yellow. But you notice today on the picture when Melvin sheared, it was nice and white and clean. And that was one of Richard's sheep. And it was a nice docile sheep. It let him shear it because the older ones, when they're used to it, they just sit back and they think, this is spa day. This feels good. I'm getting my coat off, and the first thing they usually do is find a board to rub up because they're side itches, and they rub on this side and they rub on that side, and it feels good. Can you imagine having a matted hairdo all winter long and you get it off in the spring? It feels good. But raising sheep is kind of interesting. We've been raising sheep a good long time. My husband brought about 10 of them home. He came home from a field trip doing work for somebody and came home with 10, 12 sheep, and poof, we were in the sheep business. And then I couldn't leave well enough alone, and we milked the sheep, and I learned to spin. But I didn't know what I was doing, so I was kind of self-taught back in 1977. Back in 1982, I got this wheel, and now I have about 25 wheels. Every time my husband gets a new tractor, I get a wheel or a loom to weave. I wove this in a triangular loom, and some of the other things I nail bind or knit or felted. You can do all kinds of things with wool. Have you ever seen a sheep shorn before? Anybody have grandparents or parents that have sheep? Anybody? Are they usually white, the ones you've seen? Yeah, usually white. At my house, they're a little bit different colors. So, and you know, and Richard was talking about you have a bottle baby. We have a bottle baby that comes up, and of course Jim has to scratch their head, and then Fudge, bottle baby's baby, comes up and he has to scratch Fudge's head. And now we have 4 bottle lambs. So our grandson the other day, he said, it's Cotton, All White, Midnight, Twilight, and Brownie. He named all of them. Next time he comes up, he'll go, yep, that's Brownie, that's Twilight. And he likes to name them. But I always forget the names, but he remembers for me. When we were milking, we would milk like 50 head for 5 months. But now we only have like 25, 30 sheep, and we raise them on about 40 acres of very wooded, fenced pasture. And they're great clippers. We don't even own a lawnmower anymore. They fertilize and they eat the grass. And we close the gate, open the gate, drive in, and every time they come in, the sheep come running. Thank you guys, good listeners. Thank you.